Before we begin this episode of the In Rhythm Sports podcast, we want to give our condolences to Eagles fans and Carson Wentz supporters. And to begin this episode, we want to give sound from our friend and loyal listener, Connor Smith.
In Rhythm Sports podcast, thank you for having me on for this. I've been waiting a long time for this trade to go through. Being an Eagles fan, man, this is a great trade for us, honestly, because at the end of the day, Wentz doesn't want to be here. You know, we got a rough fan base out here. Not a lot of people are on his side right now. I know a lot of people are probably pissed all we got is a second and a third. The second does turn into a first if they make the playoffs or if he plays 75% or more of his games. But at the same time, we got $30 million sitting on our bench. We lose him to free agency. What do we get? We don't get anything for him. So I'm glad we got something for him. You know, hopefully that turns into a first-round pick. Hopefully they have a mediocre season. We get a top 20 pick out of it next year in the draft. I'm excited, man. We'll see what happens.
Thank you, Connor. I was gonna try to do something funny, but I have nothing in my head. Thanks, Connor. I would have to agree with your take. You know why? Because the Eagles had to get rid of him. They couldn't have that big contract laying on the bench. They had to get rid of him. Guess what? I agree. They got some picks. They got the best they could out of him. So, you know, you're a smart man. Yes, sir, Connor.
Connor, I agree. And I think we are going to talk about this I think we're going to talk a lot about this later in the episode with Big Daddy Hoss, who's going to be on the show soon. And thank you for your take. I think the Eagles did do the right thing, but I think they might regret it simply because I think Wentz has a second burst in him. But thank you for your take. Ladies and gents, welcome back to episode 4 of In Rhythm Podcast. I am Will, and I'm with my boy
Graham Harrison reporting.
And we are joined today by our first special guest, Big Daddy Aidan McEwen Hoss. And today we are going to discuss the Carson Wentz trade. We are going to discuss the All-Star Game starters and bench warmers and a little controversy that might be brewing, and the new MLB rules this upcoming season as pitchers and catchers reported yesterday to camp. Let's do it! Okay, so we're back on the In Rhythm Sports podcast, and we're going to start off today by discussing the Carson Wentz trade to Indianapolis, as the Eagles got a third-round pick this year and a second-round pick that could turn into a first-round pick next year if Carson Wentz, starts 75% of the plays this year, or makes the playoffs with the Colts this year. I want the initial thoughts from Big Daddy Hoss first. Hoss, you're a lifelong Eagles fan. What do you think about the Carson Wentz trade to Indianapolis?
My first reaction was I was a little bit heartbroken. I mean, it's sort of like the franchise guy. He just signed like a massive contract. But he's like part of the reason why they went to the Super Bowl. But if he'd get injured, who knows what would have happened at that point. But like for that to happen, I was expecting either Chicago or Indianapolis, like they were saying. But it just seemed a little childish to me halfway through. Like from his perspective, that he wasn't like reaching out to fans. We'll put an example like when Ben and Joel, they were having like a little bit of the trade rumors, and they came out and said, we love playing with each other, but it's business, we understand it. But he's out there just shooting ducks and shit out in Philadelphia. So, I mean, I was expecting him to be professional because, you know, he's a natural leader, as he says, and he just didn't come out and say anything. But at the end of the day, I think it's because of Howie Roseman. I have no faith in that man as long as he's in the building. This team's going to be bad for a long time.
You heard it here, folks. Eagles fans are not optimistic today on February 19, 2021. Herbo, what are your thoughts on the Wentz trade?
I think it had to be done. I think it's a good trade because I don't know how high the value was for Wentz at this point. I heard a lot of teams were just checking in, seeing what they could, what they could offer. And, I think the Eagles were asking for a lot, so I think this is the best they could get, a possible first-round pick. I'm thinking it's going to turn into a first round. I don't see Carson Wentz not playing 75% of snaps. And, I mean, he wasn't going to play anyway. on the Eagles, the team already moved on to Jalen Hurts. They weren't going to play Wentz. So, I mean, they weren't going to have him ride the bench. It's just pointless. So, might as well get some assets for him. So, I get it had to be done.
Right. And they did take a $33 million cap hit to get rid of him, the largest in NFL history. But I agree with you. I think with him just sitting on the bench, it just would have been a wasted roster spot. And you think you already have your QB in Hurts. So it's time to move on, unfortunately, Eagles fans. Now, with saying that, now that they only have Jalen Hurts and Sudfeld, I mean, he was a key contributor to the football team making the playoffs last season. We all know about that one. But what do you guys think the Eagles are going to do next year to prepare Jalen Hurts to be a playoff winning quarterback next year?
Hollis, you could take that one.
Well, already Jalen is like taking control. I mean, he's supposed to be practicing with those young wide receivers. I mean, I think that's like a big step from him if he's gonna be the quarterback of the future. We don't know that yet because they said they're going to bring in a quarterback competition. So who knows if they're going to draft a quarterback or if they're going to bring like a veteran like Ryan Fitzpatrick. That'll be a great fit, like someone a leader. But I think it's going to be a lot of leadership. It's like be a big thing for him, but he's used to that. He's been like put in those scenarios, when he was sort of the guy who was put on the bench when it was Tua. I'm pretty sure it was Tua at Bama, right? If I'm not mistaken. And he sort of overcame that, and then he was supposed to be another quarterback competition, then transferred. But like he's used to this now. He's the next man up, and he did that at Oklahoma. So, I mean, I think he's gonna be a good quarterback. But yet again, like all these mobile quarterbacks, they have to have an arm. And his stats weren't the best when he was passing those games when he was playing. I mean, that showed on, Pro Football Focus? He was very low in the grade. So, I mean, I think that's still a big concern. But as long as he gets the chemistry with those guys, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, bouncing off of what you said with the teammates, I think his teammates, I don't know, I think he gels a lot better with the running backs and receivers than Carson Wentz did. I mean, Miles Sanders has, I've seen him publicly post about Jalen Hurts a few times already. There's a good chance that you guys draft a receiver who's coming into a good situation where the quarterback and the young quarterback, young receiver, you can build you can build that rapport with them and just move on. So I don't know. I think it's good that they have a young quarterback and they can. That if it was toxic in the QB room, it would have messed with the young receiver. So it's definitely good.
I don't mean to be a whistleblower or anything, but an inside source reported to me and the inside source went to Alabama when Tua and Jalen were there, and he hung out with both of them. And my inside source told me that Jalen Hurts is a little bit of a dick.
Who's inside source?
I mean, most pro athletes have an ego. Most pro athletes have always been the guy. If you're going to Alabama, you've always been the guy. So it's probably more of an ego thing where he wants stuff handed to him because that's his whole life. It's been like that. I don't think that's a character issue. I think he's going to be fine.
So, but that was a big problem with Wentz, wasn't it? That he was overstepping a little bit and not calling audibles at the line of scrimmage and doing things like that. Who's to say that Jalen Hurts might not get comfortable and start doing the same thing? Now, this is insinuating that he does have an ego issue, like Wentz apparently did, according to the front office in Philadelphia.
I mean, I don't know if they have an ego, but I think quarterback's a big position. You know what I'm saying? It's all around you. If you got a bad quarterback, I mean, you can't really get in the end zone unless you have a good running back or outstanding wide receivers. So I think Carson sort of took control, but at the same time, I think there was that ego. Coming in the league the first 2 years, Frank Reich said that kid, he didn't care about stats. He just wanted to get better as a player. And it seemed like the past couple years after that, he was more concerned about proving people wrong that he wasn't injury prone, that he was a better quarterback than he was. I feel like he was just trying to do way too much. And I think that there's that ego. He had to be that guy who made the play to make them win. I think that's the ego that they saw. Because you see it he doesn't throw the ball away, and that's the big thing with this year. He got sacked nonstop because he wouldn't throw the ball away.
Right. So, Graham, I have a question for you.
Hit me.
My question for you, and Hoss, I'll come to you after Graham. What weapons need to be around? I mean, I already kind of insinuated. I already kind of asked this earlier. But what do the Eagles need to do now with Jalen Hurts as the man? What do they need to do for him what pieces around him do they need?
I think the running back is the easiest position to fill, and that's already filled for them. Miles Sanders is a good back. Jalen Reagor, he can be a 2 or a 3, but they definitely need to target a number 1 receiver in the draft, which I think they are, whether it's Devontae Smith or whoever, Jamar Chase. I think they're going to go after a receiver because they need that. And I think other than that, just beef up the O-line. You got to protect your quarterback. If you can protect your quarterback, good things are going to happen. It's not a big, tough equation. That's all you got to do.
Okay, Hoss, same question to you.
I think they gotta go for wide receiver. I agree with Graham. However, I don't want Devontae Smith. I know a lot of analysts are talking about his frame and everything, but I saw it from a stats perspective of Jalen Waddle and Jamar Chase. Jalen Waddle was an outstanding player before he got injured, and that's sort of where Devontae took off. I mean, I think it has to be wide receiver. I think another big thing would be another corner because their secondary is just awful. Just awful. Even for someone like Asante Samuel Jr., I mean, he's a pretty good player. But, yeah, that offensive line still has a couple questions. Like Mailata, you got to figure out if he's going to be able to win over that left tackle position. And then you just drafted a guy in the first round last year, and then he tore his bicep. And now he's out, but he's the first-round pick. Are you really going to – is Howie going to take the blame for a seventh-round pick outplaying a first-round pick? It's the big question to me. And then you have those guys who are aging on the inside of the line. Brandon Brooks, he's getting old. Jason Kelsey's getting old. You don't know if he's going to come back. So I think it's finding replacements for those key veterans to start rebuilding the team. They're nowhere close from being like a dynasty yet.
Oh, nowhere close. So let's move on to the Colts. The Colts assumed Carson Wentz $128 million contract that was extended by the Eagles, and they're going to pay him $10 million extra and a bonus due in March. How do you think the Colts are going to play next year with Wentz as their leader? Graham, go ahead.
Well, I mean, the Colts, in my opinion, had everything except for a quarterback. They're a really complete football team, and I think their offense is going to be top level. I mean, they have 3 or 4 great running backs that are multi-talented. They can catch out of the backfield and run. They have Michael Pittman, who kind of had a little breakout year at receiver. T.Y. Hilton's a good veteran receiver. And Carson Wentz, he's going to be behind a great O-line, so he's going to have time. And he's not going to be able to have to force anything. He's just going to be able to do his thing. Their defense is amazing. Their run defense is ridiculous. They held Derrick Henry to 60 yards rushing one game. They're legit. I think he's got a full team around him. I think they're going to be real good.
So no excuses coming on for Wentz this year like it has been the past couple of years by Wentz supporters. Paul, so what about you? How do you think the Colts are going to manage this year with Carson Wentz behind center?
I think they'll be a lot better. Just like Graham said, I think the big thing they're missing was quarterback. Phillip Rivers isn't bad, don't get me wrong, but I think Wentz is going to be in a lot better situation, especially being reunited with his old offensive coordinator. So I think that's the big thing. And their run game is very good. When you have that run game, just like he had his MVP season, we'll say, it was the sort of play actions. You can establish that run game and run a play action and get someone just to bite on that play. I mean, that's when those deep passes are going to come back. I definitely think there's a lot of talent on that team. They're very young, too, on the offensive side. All their talent's coming in the draft. I mean, I think he should be good, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think that reunion with Frank Reich is really important. I think that's going to help him gain his confidence back because that's the last time he had an amazing season was with Frank Reich. So I think that's really a key factor to it.
I agree. I think the Colts are going to be a top contender in the AFC along with the Bills and the Chiefs. I think those are my top 3 going in preseason. Top 3 teams in the AFC. We'll see where the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes go, and then if he goes to Miami, they'll be catapulted up there too. But the Colts are going to be legit. So, Hoss, before we kick you out of here, we're going to play a little bit of a game show. So, obviously, this year, the big comparison was Brady versus Belichick, comparing and contrasting how their teams were doing. So, we're not going to get into that much, but we're going to do Carson versus Eagles. So, who is more likely to get 10 wins this season? 10 or more, the Indianapolis Colts or the Jalen Hurts-led Philadelphia Eagles?
I'll start us off with that. I think the Colts are gonna take that. I mean, I don't think the Eagles are anything special with Jalen Hurts. I think they're still middle, middle. No. They're still a middle of the line team. The Colts are getting 10 wins.
All right, Hoss. Ted, who gets Ted?
Well, this is an easy answer. It's going to be the Colts. I don't think there's any chance the Eagles are even going to get to the top of the division. I think they're going to be the bottom, without a doubt.
Okay, so that was a consensus Colts there. My second question. So I didn't really get to give any of my per se on this situation. I think Jalen Hurts is a bridge quarterback. I do not think he's going to be good. I think he'll be out of the league in 4 years, but that's for another day. But so we're going to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here. We're going to give Jalen Hurts 20 touchdowns over under, and we're going to give Carson Wentz 30 over under. Do either of them reach that over under?
I think Hurts reaches that over.
Passing touchdowns.
Oh, not total touchdowns.
No,
Actually,
passing touchdowns.
Uh,
We'll go total 25 for Hurts. So we'll just go 25 for Hurts.
I think he'll get over that. I think his feet are going to be used a lot more. I think that's over for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Wentz over under 30, Graham.
You know, the offense, I can't tell if it's going to be explosive or not, or if it's just going to be like, we're there. But I'm going to say over. I think he's going to have like a bounce back here. I'm going to say over, because it's a pass-heavy league now. I'm going over.
Hoss?
Definitely going with Jalen over. I mean, I think he's just going to be like the one guy they're going to have to rely on because they don't got much star power out there, honestly.
And then the Wentz?
I'm praying for under, personally. I think he'll go under just because they have a really good run game. I mean, I think that they can rely on that a little bit since he had this little interception problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then the last question that I'm going to ask. Over under 2 years, Jeffrey Lurie finally getting kicked the hell out of Philadelphia.
Oh, so you got that one.
Will Jeffrey Lurie get kicked out? I don't think he will right now. Like, just from like listening to the radio and seeing social media, a lot of people are saying that this guy right here and Jeffrey Lurie are butt buddies, meaning that if one of them would go, they both have to go because they're not going to leave each other. I definitely see Howie going if the draft doesn't go how it's supposed to be, because like the past like 7 years have been terrible, and if Lurie just can't get it going and find someone or get rid of him, I think he's going to have to go as well. And I think a big group of Philly, just people from Philly, like residents, and everyone who's an Eagles fan, can just go there and just get his ass out of Philadelphia.
Right. I said Jeffrey Lurie because the Eagles fans are just so crazy. Even though Howie's obviously the guy that needs to go, I feel like the Eagles fans might rob and loot and riot at Lincoln Financial one night.
I mean, he's the owner, man. He's got to like see what's going on. It just comes down to it, like, I don't know. Just a lot of things have gone wrong since the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. They still had that little, we're the Super Bowl team, but they were getting older and older, sort of had to stop. Weren't the Patriots, you go back to back to back to back nonstop.
So, Graham, Howie and Jeffrey, less than 2 years?
No, I think they're gonna last more than 2 years. I don't think the fans are gonna be happy, but like it's hard to just completely rebuild everything and have a whole new franchise top to bottom. So I think it's gonna be more than 2 years.
Okay. And does Jalen Hurts ever win an MVP in Philadelphia? That is yet to be determined. I think not, but we will see. Big Daddy Hoss, thank you for joining the show today. And if you ever want to come back and talk about the Eagles, please don't.
Listen,
I'm just joking. You
can
come back. Yeah, you can come back.
Hurts is almost gone. I'll be back to talk about that.
Okay. Okay, Hoss. And enjoy the baseball season up and coming. I know you're a big Phillies fan.
Oh, well. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Hoss.
Okay, we're back after kicking off Big Daddy Hoss. from talking about our Carson Wentz trade. Now we are going into our next segment, which is the NBA All-Star starters and snubs. So in the Eastern Conference for the starters, we had KD as the captain, Giannis, Joel Embiid, Kyrie, and Graham's boy Brad Beal. And
Yes,
then in the
sir.
West, we have LeBron James as the captain, followed by Kawhi Leonard, Jokic, Luka, and Steph, the GOAT, at shooting three-pointers, Curry. So what are your thoughts on the starting five, Graham, in each conference?
So for the East, I think they got it right. I think all 5 starters are deserved. I have some bad blood with Giannis. I don't like that man. So, I low-key voted for Bam over him, but we're not going to talk about that. Giannis is probably having a better season. I'm glad my boy Brad Beal got the starting job after, he got snubbed last year, averaging 30 points per game. Ridiculous. But it's good to know he got number 1 fan voting, so he got his respect. Over at the West, I agree with everything except for Luka. I think Dame's having a better year. Their team's a lot better, even though, team success isn't really a factor for All-Stars. I think Dame's doing so much more. I don't know. I just don't see why Luka's starting over him, but, it's a popularity contest.
Yeah, and here's the crazy thing, because you're right. Luka won the fan vote, 3.3 million to 2.8 million, respectively. But the media, Dame had 34 more votes than Luka, and the player vote, it was 131-58 in Dame's favor. So should fans really be voting on the All-Star game, Graham? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the fan voting is to get, the casual NBA fans, involved. Because it I don't know, on Twitter, it brings a lot of people together, voting for
Sure.
your favorite player. I think that's why it's 50% of the vote, the fan voting, just to get, the casual NBA fans in. But I don't know, a lot of they're casual for a reason. They don't know
Right.
all the time who should be starting.
But at the end of the day, I kind of feel like it doesn't really matter who's starting because, correct me if I'm wrong, does it ever say anywhere, 20 years after these guys are done in the NBA, does it differentiate between who's starting and who was on the bench, or does it just say all-star?
No, it's just all-star. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of just about respect right now. I mean, I'd rather have an all-NBA team than an all-star. So
And they're both probably going to get that, but that's actually going to be a battle for the first team All-NBA. So who do you think that's going to be between those two? Because it's going to be between Steph's probably a lock with how crazy
yeah, I
he's
think
shooting
Steph's
right
up there. The thing is, I think one of those Nets guards could get it. Bradley Beal could get it because it's not just East and West; it's all the guards in the NBA.
now. Oh, right. I forgot about
it's
that.
gonna be a battle between a lot of people. But I think Steph is gonna get the first team, and the second spot is gonna be a dogfight.
So you're saying I think it's going to be between Brad, Luka, and Dame for that other. They could probably put 3 of those in and put 2 front court guys, right?
And then it's 2 guards.
Essentially.
It's 2 guards, 3 forwards, and a big man.
Oh.
No, it's
Oh wow.
I think it's a center, 2 forwards, 2 guards. It's
Ooh,
gonna be
man.
tough.
But it's gonna be tight.
Yeah,
I think
it
it'll
is.
come down to who makes the playoffs because if Luka makes the playoffs over Steph, I know all pro isn't really focused on playoffs, but that might give one of them the edge.
Yeah, I mean, Harden, I think, could be in there because he's had, 10-plus assists in, all but 3 of his games with the Nets. He's, turning into a triple-double machine himself, a very efficient one, too, so he could be a dark horse for that. But, yeah, the first team All-NBA will definitely be exciting.
Right, and to conclude the NBA All-Star team in the East in the backcourt, we have Harden, Levine, Jaylen Brown, Russell Westbrook, Ben Simmons, Fred VanVleet, Colin Sexton, and in the front court we got Tatum, Jimmy Buckets, Bam, Randall, Sabonis, Jeremiah Grant, and Gordon Hayward. And the West in the backcourt we got Dame Dalla on the bench now, as we talked about earlier, Mitchell, Booker, Ja, Chris, Shai. In the front court we got AD, PG, Zion, Brandon Ingram, Christian Wood, Rudy Gobert, and Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see which of them get elected to the reserves. I think there's some, obvious people, and there's some people that could get snubbed. It'll be interesting.
Melo's. I was looking at the breakdown on how everyone's doing, and Melo's doing really well on everything, but he's averaging 13 points a game. Do you think that's disrespectful to the young guys that are doing really well with him getting pushed to go to the All-Star game when maybe those guys are averaging like 25 and they're like, why? Like De'Aaron Fox, for example. Should De'Aaron Fox be in the All-Star game over Melo?
Well, De'Aaron Fox should not be an all-star.
Just I'm saying, like, he has like 10 more points per game than Melo.
Well, yeah, here's the thing. Maybe if this is Melo's last year, I can see that. I don't know. Maybe he's told everyone, like, yo, my last year. Because, you know, a lot of these other legends got D-Wade, Dirk, Kobe. They weren't having the best year. There's probably people that could have been over them, but they got voted into the All-Star game. So, I don't know. Maybe if he told a couple people, you know, hey, it's my last year, they throw him in there.
Do you think it comes down to respect for the legends of the game?
Yeah, I mean, Carmelo Anthony's one of the best scorers in NBA history, I think. If he's calling it quits, you got to give him one more honorary All-Star.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. Graham, I'll take your word on that one. So the All-Star games discussed, we just think that, you know, maybe Dame should be starting over Luka. Dame's averaging 28, 29, 4, and 7. Luka's averaging 28, 9, and 9. And Dame's record is significantly better than Luka's, but we're not going to talk about record. So we're going to move on to the MLB. Pitchers and catchers returned yesterday. And we're not going to talk about it too thoroughly today, but we wanted to go into the rules that are going to be made for this 2021 weird season like it was last year due to the pandemic. But this year, the season's more longer than it was last year. It's definitely into the 100 games. But like last year, double headers will be 2 7-inning games. Graham, what do you think about that rule?
I think that's a good rule. I think with like games maybe being postponed or something and you have more doubleheaders than usual, I think you're asking a lot of the players to just keep going back to back to back in some scenarios. So definitely 7 innings is the right decision. And also it helps the fan attentiveness. You know, it's a shorter game. I think it's a good decision.
I also think the 7 innings from a tactical perspective for coaches, now they could maybe throw out one guy and be like, hey, give me 7. Or they could be like, bullpen day, everyone give me 1, and they only it just really helps them manage the game better. I mean, those 2 last innings can be really huge because that's when you start getting the gritty nitty of putting one guy in for a specific 3 straight matchups that you want. So I think it's going to be helpful for coaches during the season when there's less breaks. The next rule I do not agree with. I think it's stupid. Each offense will get a runner on second to start every extra inning.
Okay, yeah. So I don't understand that rule from like a player's perspective. Just because like why do they just get a runner on second? Like that defeats the whole purpose of like you playing good. You're allowing someone to be in scoring position to start the inning. But I get it from an outside perspective. They want it to be like more exciting, I guess. So it's just like, hey, we're in extra innings. He's already in scoring position. We could have a walk-off or something just right away. Or we could have like, oh, we're having a single and he scores already. And now it's going to be like more high-paced, I guess. So I think they did that to bring some more eyes to the game. I don't think, because it's just not necessary any other way.
I totally understand what you're saying, but I just don't think anyone who's not watching baseball already is going to tune in and be like, oh, it's the 10th inning. They got a runner on second base. Now they're gonna win the game. It's gonna be exciting.
No, I 100% agree. It's not gonna bring in any new people, which is why I don't understand like why they're doing it.
Yeah, and also that should, from a pitcher's perspective, that should not count as an earned run if I let in a gimpy single and that guy scores from second base first pitch. That's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it really defeats the whole purpose of like you're already somebody in scoring position. I don't know. I really don't get it from a player's perspective at all.
And a lot of guys don't really bunt these days because they're too hot shots. But literally, you just bunt guys at third base and then get the guy 90 feet with 2 outs.
Just hit it in the air in the outfield, sack fly.
Seriously, These guys are professionals. They can do whatever they want. They can manipulate the baseball any single way they want to. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this one. Yeah, not sure.
So that was an MLB from the In Rhythm podcast. How about this one? Active roster limit will revert to 26 and expand to 28 in September. So they're going to we're not going to touch that rule. That rule's stupid. I don't think we really care about that. Give the guys bring the players up, give opportunities in September. That's cool. And then the last rule we want to get into, universal designated hitter. Last season, they made it so it was a universal designated hitter. So the pitchers did not hit last season. But this year, all NL games won't, and interleague games will have a D. Well, so like in the NL, they'll revert back to what it used to be, where the pitchers hit in their parks. Graham, what do you think about that rule? Last year they did not do that.
I think you have a different perspective on it because I'm more of like a casual baseball fan. I don't follow it as closely as you do, but I like never understood why only the AL would have a DH. Like I never understood that. Like only why one of them would have a DH. It didn't make sense to me. I don't know like how that like where that came from or like what the terms of like evenness come from. So I don't really like that. I think just if you're gonna have a DH, everyone should have a DH. I don't know, but I don't know. What you got to say?
I mean, honestly, if I'm a pitcher, I'm going to the National League. That's one less competitive at bat I got to have every time around the order. But I mean, from a fan's perspective, it's so annoying when your team's down by a few runs and you got a couple runners in scoring position and you're 8 hitters up and they don't get it done and then there's 2 outs. And the pitcher comes up.
Yeah, that's why I never understood it.
They don't want to hit. Like, they want to focus. Some of them do. Some of them are berserko. But even if they're berserko, they're going to hit like .35.
Max Scherzer.
They're so focused on pitching every single day. That's just a waste of time.
Yeah,
and
I mean, these guys like, These guys like they don't practice hitting. They focus only on pitching. It doesn't make sense to have them out there.
And Max Scherzer won a couple of years ago. He was taking batting practice. He might have been messing around, but he was taking batting practice, and he bunted one, and it went off his eye.
He broke his nose.
Yeah, he broke his nose. Like, it just leads to injury. That's unnecessary. Guys countless times have slid into bases and torn their quads and stuff like that. There's just no need for pitchers to be involved in the hitter's game. So I'm not a fan. They just got to get rid of that. I mean, and also you give someone else a chance that actually is good at hitting to hit rather than someone who's going to hit automatically less than 100 unless it's Bartolo Colon.
On God, universal DH. We need it.
Yes, sir. So that's what we wanted to get into about MLB. More to come for you MLB fans, where you will talk about that. Graham, what's your favorite team in the MLB? Let them know.
Nationals, baby. You know, we had that Miracle championship run. I went to one of the World Series games. Oof, we live. Juan Soto.
Yeah, and I'm a big Sox fan. If you guys couldn't figure that out, I like the Boston Red Sox. You know, the greatest stadium of all time.
Yeah. All right. Well. Okay.
No one can really argue that
Can't
one.
take anything from that.
So we are basically done on the end of the podcast. We discussed the Carson Wentz big blockbuster trade. We talked about the NBA and MLB, and now we're just going to get into the last thing that I like to do now is, Graham, tell me about your peak today.
All right, my peak. Well, it was snowing all day. So I didn't really do anything. You know what I did? I sat back. I watched a little Harry Potter. That's what I did. I was chilling, you know? I got into my happy place, so that's what I did. How about you, Will? What was your peak?
Just like Chubbs, man, you found your happy place. And so I went to baseball practice. I can't practice, but I helped the guys out. I made sure the bases were 90 feet across, and I made the whole dimensions on our indoor stadium. I took videos of the guys pitching. I was a contributor to that. So, you know, it made me feel good helping others when I cannot do what I like to do.
That's beautiful to hear.
So, you know, that was my peak. So that's all we got today. Herbo, send us out.
Hey, man. You already know the vibes. We come here every week. Top level analysis. You know the vibes. Thank y'all.
Deuces.